Bismillah. Do you ever feel like everything is haram? I mean, like all the things you really want to do? Tonight we're tackling a topic that destroys so many lives, not just of young people, but of people that ought to know better as well, and that is the pursuit of your desires. I will never forget one particular night in the ER when a young woman was brought in by ambulance from a nearby home. She had been beaten and she had been raped. She had been drinking alcohol, and police reported that drugs were found on the scene as well. This young woman was in bad shape, and after stabilizing her, I was making arrangements to fly her to the closest trauma center. But then came the part that really broke me. She had hardly said anything during the entire evaluation, but at that moment, she looked really closely at my ID badge and then my face. And then she looks at me and says, "Doc, are you a Muslim?" So I had been so intensely focused on stabilizing her that I hadn't noticed that her name was Muslim too. "Yes, I am," I told her. But at that moment, she broke down and said through tears, "I ruined my whole life. Look at me. You remind me of my older brother who always cared for me so much. He was a good man, religious, funny, and so kind. And I rejected all of his advice and all of his attempts to help me live a better life. I just wanted to have fun, and I always felt like Islam was this burden. Like everything I wanted to do was haram. So I ran away from home when I was 17, and this is my life now. I would give everything to go back and do it all over." I never saw her again because her injuries were so bad that she died several days later in an ICU, alone and far from anyone who ever cared about her. But I will never forget her. I know where you're coming from. I grew up here, far from a masjid, far from Muslim friends. My parents did everything to help me. But when you're a teen, let's be honest, you want to have fun. You want to create memories. You want to do things. You want to experience life. And here, there's no one to tell you no. You have easy access to everything: alcohol, weed, sex, parties, and anything else. At this point in your life, you think life is just awesome, right? But is it? When you're a teen, you think you're invincible. Nothing can go wrong. You've probably even cheated death once or twice. I know I did. But then things, they change. Someone you know gets into a car accident because they were drunk or high. And now they're not okay because either they're dead or they'll never be the same again because of the injuries that they sustained. You thought everyone was living it up, but that kid that you know at school is gone, and everyone is saying that he broke under the pressure and took his own life. And as you get older, the changes keep coming, only faster now. You thought the world was yours for the taking, but now it seems to be taking you and everyone that you know. You were too busy living it up, and now you can only get some crap job that barely pays the bills. Some of your friends, not even 25, are having problems with addiction. That one kid that smoked weed every day, people are saying that he got like Alzheimer's or something. Can you really get that without being old? This isn't how it was supposed to be. You thought you were going to be young and beautiful and have fun forever, but now you smoke or drink at night to forget how ugly and miserable the world is. And the worst part, you're not alone. When did everything become so bleak, become so serious? I know that some of you are not going to believe me. You're thinking, "No way, not me. I got this figured out." Yeah, we all said that too. Everybody says that. So let me tell you a story before we understand this from the Quran. During the battle between the Muslims and the Persian Empire, one of the companions was granted a meeting with the great general of the Persians, Rustum. Rustum commanded tens of thousands of soldiers and was one of the most decorated generals in that entire era. Rib'i bin Aamir radiallahu ta'ala anhu entered upon Rustum in his palace, which was decorated with every form of luxury. Rib'i, on the other hand, was wearing a patched thobe and had with him a spear and an old horse. Rustum thought that this was actually pretty funny and indulged this man, asking him, "So, what brings you to our lands?" And so Rib'i bin Aamir responded to him with words that literally could be written in gold. He said, "Allah sent us to take people from the servitude of others to the servitude of the one true Lord, from the narrowness of this life to the expanse of the hereafter, and from the tyranny of false religions to the justice of Islam." Now, if that wasn't a mic drop, I don't know what would be. The TLDR here is simple. You are a slave, and you will always be a slave. The only question that you have to answer is this: what are you a slave to? Tonight, I want to share with you one of the lesser known stories from the Quran, and that is the story of Bal'am from Surah Al-A'raf. وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ الَّذِي آتَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا فَانسَلَخَ مِنْهَا فَأَتْبَعَهُ الشَّيْطَانُ فَكَانَ مِنَ الْغَاوِينَ وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَرَفَعْنَاهُ بِهَا وَلَكِنَّهُ أَخْلَدَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ واتبع هواه فمثله كمثل الكلب إن تحمل عليه يلهث أو تتركه يلهث ذلك مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآياتنا فاقصص القصص لعلهم يتفكرون. And relate to them the story of the one to whom we gave our signs, but he abandoned them. So Satan took hold of him, and he became a deviant. If we had willed, we would have elevated him with our signs, but he clung to this life, following his evil desires. His example is the example of a dog. If you chase it away, it pants, and if you leave it alone, it still pants. This is the example of the people who deny our signs. So share these stories, perhaps people will reflect. These ayat, they tell the story of a man named Bal'am from the city of Jerusalem in the time of Bani Israel. At that time, Jerusalem was inhabited by some of the very worst people. And this man, Bal'am, he knew Allah's greatest name and was known as someone who was mustajab ad-du'a, meaning that Allah accepted his dua. As Jerusalem was an evil place in those days, Musa alayhi salam was sent to conquer it. And so the people of Bal'am came out to him saying, if Musa attacks us, we will be destroyed. We are your people, and we have no other place to live. Kind of sounds familiar, right? You are a person whose dua is always accepted by Allah. Make dua to Allah that He stops Musa and his army. So Bal'am replied, if I make dua to Allah and He turns back Musa, I will lose everything in this life and the hereafter. But his people kept trying to convince him, using promises of wealth and pleasure, until he did make dua against Musa. When he crossed that line, Allah took away everything that He had given him. And Allah said about him, but he clung to the earth, meaning that he became distracted by the luxuries and pleasures of this life. He indulged in the lusts of life and was deceived by them, just as life deceived others like him. He had everything that truly mattered: knowledge, closeness to Allah, and accepted dua, and he traded it all for the fleeting pleasures of this life. And then Allah gives us the image that you should not forget, that of the panting dog. So whether you chase it away or leave it alone, it just pants. That is the image of desire. You can give it everything that it asks for, and it will still want more. It is never satisfied, it never rests, and it never stops panting. That is what the pursuit of desire actually looks like from the inside. Not freedom, but an exhausting, endless chase that leaves you more empty with every lap. That young woman in my ER understood that. She had chased everything she thought that she wanted, and she died in an ICU alone, saying, I would give everything to go back and do it all over again. So here is the question I want you to sit with. If following your desires leads to the panting dog, to Bal'am, to addiction, to regret, to emptiness, what does the alternative actually look like? Because I think this is where most Islamic teaching gets it wrong. We spend so much time telling young people what they can't do that we forget to tell them what they get instead. So let me tell you what you get instead. Allah says in Surah An-Nahl, مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِّن ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنثَىٰ وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Whoever does good, whether male or female, and is a believer, we will surely reward them with a good life, حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. And we will reward them according to the very best of what they used to do. Hayatan tayyibah, a good life. Not just paradise in the hereafter, a good life here, now, in this world. What does that actually mean? The scholars explain that hayatan tayyibah includes contentment, qana'ah, meaning the ability to be satisfied with what you have. It includes peace of heart, tama'nina, the stillness that the panting dog never finds. It includes the ability to genuinely enjoy the halal pleasures that Allah has permitted without the diminishing returns that come from the haram. Here's something else that I've also observed in over 25 years of medicine and Islamic education. The people who live their lives in obedience to Allah, not perfectly, but sincerely, are on the whole the most content human beings that I have ever met. Not the richest, not the most exciting lives on paper, but genuinely content, genuinely happy. And when they approach death, and I have sat with so many people at the end of their lives, the ones who lived for Allah, they die differently. They die with a peace that is almost impossible to describe. They look back at their lives and they're satisfied, not because everything went perfectly, but because they lived for something real. Compare that to what I see on the other end. I have sat with other people at the end of their lives who chased everything that they wanted and even got most of it, and they are some of the most frightened, most regretful, most restless people I've ever encountered. The panting never stopped, and now there is no time left. The young woman in that ER, she understood this all too late, but you don't have to. Two things, practical tonight. Number one, name what you're actually chasing. What is the desire that feels most like a burden when Islam says no to it? Name it, then ask honestly, what do I actually expect this thing to give me? Peace, belonging, excitement, identity? Because those are real needs, and Islam has real answers to all of them. The desire is often pointing at something legitimate. The question is whether what you're chasing can actually deliver it, and the truth is that even if it delivers for a little while, you will pay a steep price in the end. Number two, find someone that has that good life, not the Instagram life, not the highlight reel. Find a Muslim older than you, someone who's lived, whose life you actually respect. Watch how they live. Ask them what they know. The hayatan tayyiba is real. It's totally visible. I think about that young woman often. I think about what her life could have been. I think about the brother that she mentioned, religious, funny, kind, who tried to reach her and couldn't. Maybe you have someone like that in your life too. Someone who cares about where you're headed. Don't make them watch from a distance. Tomorrow night, inshallah, night 20, dealing with guilt and shame. Extended reflection in the email, link below, and family discussion points on muslimmatters.org. Drop a comment tonight. What is one thing you thought that would make you happy that didn't? What did you learn from that? Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.